Finally, 4 flights and 36 hours later, I had arrived in the Moroccan city of Marrakech. Founded nearly 1,000 years ago as the capital of the Almoravid Empire, it is currently home to 928,000, making it the 4th largest city in Morocco behind Casablanca, Fez, and Tangier. I'm excited to get out into the streets and explore the history of this amazing city, but I'm a little tired and a little stressed because Turkish Airlines has misplaced my checked bag. And that's the one containing most of my clothes, toiletries, and souvenirs. So, I'll just explore my Riyadh first instead. You're probably wondering to yourself, what is a riad? Well, it's a traditional home with multiple levels that is centered around an open-air courtyard which contains a fountain. They were once the estates of the wealthiest Moroccans, which have now been converted into guest houses, boutique hotels, and other accommodations. The layout of riads aids in airflow, making the sweltering heat outside bearable even without central cooling. The courtyards are the perfect spots to enjoy a mint tea, commonly referred to jokingly as Berber whiskey, meet fellow travelers, and just relax and read a book. My riad is located on the Rue Koutoubia. On the west end is the Koutoubia, a 12th century Almohad-style mosque, and to the east lies the world-famous Jemaa el-Fnaa, known for its history and long tradition of oral storytelling, much of which can be read about in the book The Last Storytellers, a book documenting Moroccan folk tales told in the square before the tradition is lost forever. After 3 days, I was able to retrieve my backpack from the airport, minus my tripod. By then, I'd already explored Marrakech and was forming a plan on where else I'd like to visit in Morocco. Right now I'm just checking out some of the palaces around the city with my Spanish friends that I just met in the hostel. And this is the Palace Badi, I guess. We're not going in right now, we're gonna go to the gardens first. But there are storks that live up on the city walls, which is really cool. Bonjour! Open daily from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., the Jardin Majorelle claims 2.5 acres in the heart of the city. Created over 40 years by French Orientalist Jacques Majorelle, who started in 1923, the property contains a botanical landscape garden and 1930s Cubist villa by architect Paul Sinoir. Bought and restored by fashion designer Yves Saint Laurent in the 1980s, it is now open to the public, and the villa is now the home of the Berber Museum. Welcome. Yeah, we're good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Every one of those little pieces is a flower of some type. On our way to find the Bahia Palace, we wandered through the many souks of Marrakech and their antiques, lanterns, caftans, and barrels and bags filled with spices of all types. A 20-minute walk through the winding Marrakeshi streets, slightly southeast of the Jemaa el-Fnaa, we found the Bahia Palace. Construction was started in the middle of the 19th century and was finished near the beginning of the 20th by Grand Vizier of the Alawite Sultan, Mohammed bin Abdul al-Rahman Si Musa, and continued by his son, Grand Vizier to his successor, Moulay Abdelaziz. Under the French Protectorate from 1912, the palace was the residence of the French Resident General. When Morocco became independent again in 1956, the palace was again used as a royal residence for King Mohammed V. Then, finally being transferred to the Moroccan Ministry of Culture under King Hassan II, which brings us to present day as a tourist attraction. Although, because of its beauty and history, it can sometimes be used by the king to host foreign dignitaries and events. Many of the stucco walls are carved with Arabic inscriptions, geometric patterns, and muqarnas, a form of ornamented vaulting common in Iranian and Iberian architectures, while the floors are paved with marble and mosaic tiles. It's no wonder that the palace sees nearly 500,000 visitors a year, and is one of the main sights to see while visiting Marrakech. During the day, the Jemaa el-Fnaa might seem like a square of fruit, juice, and tea stands, but when the sun goes down, it becomes so much more. That's when traditional open-air street restaurants begin serving and sweets vendors start scouting prospective customers.
Yeah, I got 2 of these.
Oh, me.
That's a daddy box right there. Do you just one?
Huh? One box.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, that's pretty.
Having already spent 6 days in Marrakesh, I was ready to get out and explore the countryside. And a great way that I found to do that was to book a 3-day tour from Marrakesh, 9 hours east to the tiny village of Merzouga near the Algerian border that acts as a jumping off point to the dunes of the pre-Saharan steppe. The road we're going to be on is also known as the Road of 1,000 Kasbahs, which means that we're going to see a lot of the old sort of small villages that people used to live in with the really high walls. So our first real stop is here at Ait Benhaddou, which is one of the Kasbahs on the road here. And you'll probably recognize it from a lot of films. It's a pretty impressive structure. Considered to be a great example of Moroccan earth and clay architecture, Ait Benhaddou has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1987. So the city is made of mud and straw, which is pretty impressive. I know it's a little windy in here, but it's been here for about 800 to 1,000 years.
Berbers, we are the first. So, stay in the first one from Yemen. This is the technique to build houses. All it is, you put madan between.
It lies on a former caravan route from the Sahara Desert in the east to Marrakesh. Its loss of strategic importance over the 20th century has led to the village depopulating down to just a few families that now survive of agriculture and tourism. So in the area just behind me over here is where they filmed Gladiator and parts of Babel as well, just down this valley here. So the only part of Morocco I've known so far has been Marrakesh, and it has been very, very hot, about 100 degrees, 104 degrees every day. And we've just been climbing into the Atlas Mountains or somewhere near the Atlas Mountains. And it started to rain, it's gotten cloudy. Yeah, it's gotten a lot cooler too. It's pretty nice right now. For a second stop of the day, we briefly stopped in the town of Ouarzazate to visit the Cinema Museum to see sets and props from movies such as The Gladiator and The Mummy before crossing the street to another UNESCO Heritage Kasbah, Kasbah Tawarit, a mostly dilapidated Kasbah with a small restored section with a few families inhabiting the unrestored areas. We were also given tea and shown beautiful Berber carpets, but I'll come back to that later. Ouarzazate is also home to the Noor Ouarzazate Solar Complex, a 580 megawatt power plant located 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles northeast of the city. Known as the world's largest concentrated solar power plant and recognizable by its fields of mirrors, which are directed towards a solar tower. As nightfall came, we stopped in a small settlement along the road where our accommodations were waiting. So after a good day on the road, we have finally made it to our hotel tonight. We've actually been split up between like 4 hotels. Some of the Chinese group and the French group got dropped off about a half an hour ago at a different hotel that they're actually kind of far apart, so it might be a little bit of a hassle to get everybody together tomorrow morning. But we're going to have some dinner at 9. They are praying right now because it is Ramadan, and it's about time that they can break their fast. It's just about after sundown, so everybody will be excited to eat again. After a pretty good night's sleep and a good breakfast, we set out again to finish the drive to the desert. around windy mountain roads, stopping every once in a while for some tea with a view, and to check out some roadside souvenir stands. The people around here must be really trusting of tourists because whoever left this here is not around to see if anybody wants to buy it. A few hours down the road, we reach our last large town before the desert, Tinghir. Situated between the high Atlas Mountains to the north and the Little Atlas Mountains to the south, Tinghir inhabits an oasis that brings to life a nearly 30-mile-long stretch of the valley, with tracts of lush palm trees that average between 500 and 1,500 yards wide. Our stopover in Tinghir begins with our Amazi guide, Mulai, hopping into our van for a quick introduction before we set off on foot.
So you are welcome. My name is your guide, Mulai. I am your guide in this morning, and we are going to enjoy our time. You are welcome in Tinghir or Tinghir. This is new name normally. The old name is Tudga or Todra. Todra, this is the Berber Jewish lady what she taken the taxes from the caravans when we don't have the borders between the countries. Like Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Tunisia, Egypt, Morocco, and other countries.
Our first real stop of the day is here in Tudga or Tinghir, and we've got an Amazi guide that's going to take us around the city for a little bit. What's incredible about our guides has been the fact that they all speak like 4 to 6 languages, so they can pretty much tell anybody in our group the information. In the past, Tinghir played an important role as a stop for camel caravans crossing the desert between empires. Today, the caravans are gone, but tourists still make stops here to learn about the Amazi culture before heading into the desert on camelback themselves. I should also mention nearby Imidir silver mine, which is the largest mine in Africa and the 7th largest in the world.
The small towns always not like a big towns anywhere in the world. The small towns is always like friendly, like a big family, and a lot of things.
Mulai led us from the bustling shops of the town square through the mostly empty streets leading towards the greenery of the oasis that appears on the map to run directly through the center, splitting the town in half. Our guide just got done telling us that before the end of World War II, there was actually a sizable Jewish population here, which is pretty much the same everywhere in Morocco, but after 1945, they sold their houses to the local population and moved to Israel. Morocco is also known throughout the world for the beautifully colored and patterned carpets of the Berber culture, and a trip through the country would be incomplete without a trip to the workshop to get a glimpse of how they are made, complete with a showing, and of course, mint tea.
Ah oui, voilà. Ah voilà madame, c'est l'eau de rose. Toi, t'as de la chance.
Je sais, merci.
Pourquoi? Parce que vous avez perdu des cheveux et aujourd'hui ils vont pousser. Aujourd'hui ils vont pousser, Inch'Allah. Et demain tu vas retourner.
These carpets are hand-woven by highly skilled artisans over weeks and sometimes even months. Most of the designs we saw were incredibly intricate, and the fabrics, usually camel hair, sheep's wool, polypropylene, or nylon, used to make them were dyed into very vibrant colors. Each pattern appears to be completely different, made from the unique choices of their weavers instead of a preordained design. If these designs seem familiar to you, it's because these breathtaking patterns have become the inspiration for many newer contemporary carpet makers.
براد البرابر ايزي ما بردنا برد من الماء براد البرابر
Sahara.
You stay here and you can learn how we can do it.
Our hosts were even nice enough to let the girls in the group try on some traditional wedding outfits.
你在前面 you can stay 所以你可以站前面 Bye. Thank you. Have a nice day. Enjoy your travel. مع السلامة.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. After leaving Mulai back in Tinghir, we stopped outside town around midday for a proper tagine meal before making our way to nearby Todra Gorge. The towering walls of up to 1,300 feet over a small portion of the river make the gorge an impressive sight, but we couldn't stay long. Our goal is to reach Merzouga a few more hours down the road in time to be on the dunes by sunset. As we approach Merzouga, the landscape becomes much more stark and sparsely populated. Merzouga is a dusty village a couple of miles north of the Sea of Sand Dunes Erg Chebi, on the north edge of the pre-Saharan steppe. Well, after Tinghir, our driver took us to this little spot to grab some of our little turbans and stuff like that for the desert ahead. And I think we're going to buy water here as well because the desert water is really expensive. So if we get our water now, it's less expensive. And I kind of like this. This is actually really nice for the sun as well. The vastness of the Saharan desert can't be understated. At 3.6 million square miles, or 9.2 million square kilometers, it covers nearly all of northern Africa, from the Atlas Mountains in Morocco to the Red Sea between the African continent and the Arabian Peninsula, and south from the Mediterranean coast to the Niger Basin. It's the largest hot desert on Earth and the third largest overall, only coming in after the snowy deserts of Antarctica and the northern Arctic. Just after 6 o'clock and we finally made it here to our little camel camp here in Ouarzazate. We're about to get on the camels and take a sunset ride into the desert. Just changing some clothes to make it a little more comfortable, and we're gonna enjoy the next few hours. It's about 3 hours until sunset. I think it's 8:30 or 9 o'clock that the sun sets here. Yeah, it's gonna be nice. It's actually really cool around here. Watching all the camels just kind of chill out and wait for us. We're all trying to get our turbans on as well. I gotta get mine on. All right, I guess it's just about time to get on the camel. I'm all set and I will see you on the camel. This one? Take it off without me. For centuries, large trading caravans crossed the desert between African empires and city-states using camels as their main means of transport and portage. Runners would be sent ahead of the caravan to the next oasis so that water could be shipped back to the caravan, as they could not easily carry enough with them to make a full journey.
Yeah, he's not happy.
All right, getting on these things shouldn't be too bad. All right. That's good, yeah. Where do I put my feet? Do you put your feet anywhere? So we're just getting ready to head off into the desert. According to writer Ibn Battuta, an average caravan could consist of 1,000 camels, and some were approximated to be around 12,000. You can thank my GoPro for making this look anything close to smooth. Sitting atop a camel is a very bumpy experience that will definitely engage the muscles you might have forgotten about. We've arrived to our sunset dune, and they're going to get us off these camels because they actually go down front first, and it's going to be a little fun. Here we go. The last time I was out on the dunes like this, I was in Huacachina, Peru, the only oasis in the Americas. After a little bit of effort, we made it to the top of the dune. Got the camels all around behind us. Everybody's in their turbans.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Marhaba.
Well, we made it up Erg Shebi for sunset tonight. It was a beautiful sunset, and now we have trekked back with our camels to our little village for tonight, this tent village here. There's everybody from totally different countries that some don't even speak any common language, except for all of the guides seem to speak 4 or 5 languages, like I said before. But we're gonna have some food here in about an hour, and then we're gonna see if there's stars maybe, and go to bed and head out tomorrow morning. Wind and sand really do work in concert here to make sure you won't forget this place long after you've left. But in spite of that, we had an amazing meal. Of course, tagine again. I mean, they really do take pride in it here. And even the fact that Morocco is a dry country, meaning there's no way to buy alcohol, didn't stop our host from getting everyone into a partying mood. Apparently, some rhythmic drumming and cymbals work just as well to elicit an almost identical universal response to dance like no one is looking, or in our case, filming. Honestly, I have a ton of footage from this night, so I'm just gonna let you enjoy. It's amazing how after 2 days of not completely being able to connect with everyone in the group because of language barriers, how quickly those barriers actually fall once music and dance are involved. As everything was winding down in camp for the night, a few of us decided to try and climb the dunes in the dark for a better view of the stars. It was windy, but totally worth it. In the morning, we packed up early and watched the camels roam for a while we waited for our ride back to Marrakech. Unfortunately, this time, we made the entire 10-hour trip in one go. Next time, I'm headed to the coastal town of Essaouira in time for Eid, the end of dawn to sunset fasting for Ramadan, before making my way through Casablanca and Fez and staying a few nights in the blue village of Chefchaouen. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and think I deserve your subscription, please click the subscribe button below, along with the bell icon to be notified of all my new videos. This video has not been sponsored, but I'll leave a link in the description below to my website and my Teespring page. So if you'd like to go over there and check out some of the designs that I put on t-shirts and sweatshirts, feel free to go check those out and help support the channel. Thanks again for watching this video, and never stop adventuring.